I have these IKEA Zigbee lights in my home office. They are currently controlled through a PIR motion sensor above my office door. The problem with PIR motion sensors is, of course, that they only detect motion. When I'm sitting in my office, the lights have a tendency to turn off. I also have this light switch in my office, which directly faces my office chair. So I was naturally excited to find out that Inovelli has a light switch with a mmWave sensor built in. This sensor detects presence, not just motion, which should alleviate my problems with the lights turning off when I'm just sitting in my office. The plan for this switch is still to control my main office light through the switch itself because I rarely use it. And perhaps I can use the switch in some capacity to control the bookshelf lights as well. Let's see how it all comes together. The first thing I needed to figure out was the wiring. It's a fairly new house, so I knew I would have a neutral wire in the box. But what I needed to figure out was which one of the black wires was the line, which is the one coming in from the power panel, and which one was the load, which is the one going to the light. So I used my handy little circuit detector to figure out which one of the wires connected to the current switch was which. With the light turned off, only the line should have current flowing through it. The load itself should be dead. With the wires correctly figured out, it was time to install the new Inovelli switch. This was really simple. Just hook up the line to the line on the switch, the load to the load, the ground to the ground, and connect the neutral wire, which was provided by Inovelli, with the other neutral wires in the box. Once that was done, it was time to pair the switch with my Home Assistant setup. I prefer Z-Wave over Zigbee, so I went with the Red Series for my setup. Pairing was super easy. I placed Home Assistant into pairing mode, pressing the config button on the Inovelli switch 3 times to place it into pairing mode. And once that was completed, I could already control my main office light remotely. But that wasn't my intention. I also noticed that the switch turned on every time motion was detected. That wasn't the intention either. So let's see what I had to do to get this switch properly configured. Now, there are a lot of settings you can configure with this switch. A lot of settings I will need to play with at a later time. But my first order of action here is to figure out how to make sure the switch doesn't turn on my main office light every time I walk into my office. And the setting I'm looking for is the light on presence behavior. So I'm going to enable that here. Once that is enabled, it takes a few seconds for Home Assistant to refresh all the settings and show them. Once that is done, we can now change the light on presence behavior, and I really like the option here of auto off when vacant. Light turns off when room becomes vacant, but never automatically turns on. And that setting is what did the trick for me. Now that the main office light no longer automatically turns on whenever I walk into my office, the next step was to replace my old motion sensor with this new presence sensor in my bookshelf light automation. This was a rather straightforward swap that I don't think I need to get into great detail with. What I did want to do though was to try to figure out if I can make the bookshelf lights turn on when the button is double tapped. And there is kind of a way to do it, but it's not perfect. See, the switch registers these events, scene 1, 2, and 3, when the buttons get pressed. I tried creating an automation that when the state change is registered as key pressed twice, the bookshelf lights are supposed to turn on. But it's not quite working as expected, since it's not a true state change. So I'll have to keep playing with it to see if I can get this to work somehow. Or, if you know a way, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all there was to it for me to set up this brand new Inovelli Red Series switch with its mmWave sensor.